You will also need to directly edit a timesheet to add excused paid for early dismissals. You would add excused paid for 1/2 hour early dismissal on the last school day before winter break and the last school day before spring break for building substitutes and CSEA bargaining unit employees in school buildings working such days, except for custodians. Directly edit a timesheet to add excused paid for 1 hour early dismissal on the days before Thanksgiving break, Christmas break, New Year's break, and 4th of July break for employees at all district sites working such days. Please note that Kronos staff do not add these entries. Timekeepers or approvers must enter these entries into employees' timesheets as appropriate. Here are some other guidelines regarding the use of excused paid for these early dismissals and in general. Don't use excused paid for employees who did not work on early closure days. That is, they were absent. The amount of excused paid entered shouldn't exceed 1/2 hour for school early dismissals or 1 hour for district early dismissals. The amount of excused paid entered plus time worked for a day should not exceed an employee's standard hours per day. And a few examples of this. If an employee worked 7.25 hours for a day, which has a 1 hour early release, the timekeeper should enter 0.75 hours of excused paid, not 1 hour, so that the employee's paid time for the day does not exceed 8 hours. If an employee worked 8.5 hours for a day, which has a 1 hour early release, the timekeeper shouldn't enter any excused paid time, since the employee's time worked for the day exceeded 8 hours. Don't use excused paid for any days other than early closure days or as directed by the Kronos area of the Treasurer's Office. The first example we'll look at is a 1/2 hour early dismissal on the last school day before winter break for an 8-hour-a-day employee in a school building working on that day. So in this example, we'll look at Friday, December 20th. The employee worked from 7:15 to 3:15, a 1/2 hour less than their normal time. They have a calculated total of 7.5 hours. To add the excuse paid for 1/2 hour, click the plus symbol under the time for December 20th in this example. Enter 0.5 in the raw total column. Click the down arrow in the time off column. Click Browse. Scroll down until you see excuse paid, and then click the button next to excuse paid to select it, and then click Save. The second example we'll look at is the 1 hour dismissal on the day before Christmas break for an 8-hour-a-day employee at a district site working that day. So the example we'll look at here is for Monday, December 23rd. The employee has 7 hours of worked time for the day. To add the excuse paid for 1 hour for that day, click the plus symbol in the raw total area, enter 1, then click the down arrow in the time off column. Here I've previously selected excuse paid, so it's available as an option. So I simply click it here and then click Save. Otherwise, you would have to click Browse and then select it. The employee now has 8 hours in the calculated total for that day. The third and final example we'll look at is the 1 hour dismissal on the day before New Year's break for an 8-hour-a-day employee at a district site working that day. So here we're looking at Tuesday, December 31st. And in this example, the employee worked 7 hours and 45 minutes. To add the excuse paid, click the plus arrow underneath the time worked for that day. And here, instead of entering 1 hour, which would give the employee 8 hours and 45 minutes of work time for the day, enter 0.25. And only 0.25 hours of excuse paid is added in order for the employee's total paid time for the day to equal but not exceed 8 hours. In the time off area, click the down arrow, select excuse paid if it's available, or click Browse, and then select excuse paid, and then click Save.